All right, here we go. Here we go. What's up? Welcome everyone. I got Chris and Durante here already. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Let me know if I am showing up on your ends. Here we go. Hey Chris, welcome in. Welcome in. Durante, welcome in. Welcome in. I'm mainly going to be talking about death today, and it's kind of inspired by last week's coffee session after Durante's Sit in It series started. We see you, sir. Thank you so much. See and hear you. Thank you so much. So much. All right. Um, this is my second stream, so yeah, this software there's a lot, and I accidentally put myself into a trial of like the advanced one, so it's given me a lot that I don't need to like worry about right now. But it's showing all these features because they want me to pay for this stuff, but I got a free month out of them, so pretty soon here I'm probably going to switch softwares anyway because I've already got one called OBS Streamlabs. I've got Streamlabs, so thank you guys so much. All right, well, so like I said, I'm gonna be talking about deaths, some lessons I've learned from some experiences that I've had. I believe we as humans process death because of our high level of intelligence and consciousness, and we experience it differently than animals, which is why I'm very, I'm kind of, I have a small obsession with the like live feeding videos and animal like predation and hunting and seeing how different animals fight to survive and stuff and just how like honest nature is. Like people say nature's metal, and it's like, yeah, it's also beautiful and stuff, but just it's very honest. There's not like almost there's not that there isn't deceit in nature. Obviously, there's like camouflage and stuff like that, but yeah, it's just it is what it is, right? So mixed with our language and our storytelling skills, we end up fantasizing in the clouds or wallowing in the mud. So this is just kind of the spectrum of human intelligence and consciousness of kind of how we are. Dark Light, what's up? We got Dark Light in the building. These are my Bridge City folks, y'all. So, man, yeah, I'm gonna get into that. Um, in a second here. But yeah, what's up, Dark Light? We are all ascending. Yes, the Dark Light is upon you. Beautiful motherfuckers. What's up? All right. So in 2023, I had two employees die that worked for me. That I honestly like I didn't know for very long. Like I was at a store that they sent me to. Um, Trigger warning, by the way. This whole thing is gonna be this whole thing is gonna be heavy. Um, we are going to sit in it. um, but the store was struggling with like turnover, with their sales, and like the overall culture there. Like people would talk about like going there to do visits and stuff, and kind of feel how it was like just a different vibe than some of the other stores, and especially where I worked. Like when I was managing, I've talked about this before, and one of my past videos about the multiverse managing. I'm gonna mention this a lot because there's a lot of different stories and um, ways of thought and just like ways that I look at things that kind of come from that lens of managing people. I think it really makes you look at people differently because you have to be aware of those intricate relationships between people. So that was something that I was pretty good at. So like, they sent me to the store to kind of help mend some of the things, and it actually got a lot better. Um, but in the end, there was only so much that I could do. The store is no longer open now. It closed. I think about a year ago or something. I'm not sure when. Anyway, I digress. So we had two employees. One of them had been there for a while. She was a bartender. She had been there for I think some years, and it was kind of like out of nowhere. She wasn't like in the best health, but she wasn't like coughing over. No one thought she was about to. No one expected her to pass. I think she was in her mid 40s. Um, yeah, so after that, obviously the vibe of the employees of even something like the staff, because even though the store was kind of like it was kind of the black sheep of like the region. Um, the store that I went to, I ended up being there for maybe 6 to 8 months, something like that. Um, but even though the store was like the black sheep of the region, they still had like regulars. They still had people that liked eating there, and they would go there often, so they knew who she was, and that affected kind of everybody. And then shortly after that, there was um, a a non-binary person that started there who used to work there, and kind of a few people knew, but not everyone. Named Braylon, and Braylon was the same age as me at the time, and we became pretty like cool. We didn't, I didn't really like hang out um, with a lot of the employees. Just trying to keep things professional, especially like not knowing everybody and being at like a new store. Like at my old store when I first became a manager, like we were still like kicking it because everybody was cool, so there was no issues. But yeah, um, but I didn't really know Braylon very well. But Braylon was a great server and was clearly like born male, but like female presenting in a lot of ways, but not all the ways. In a, I don't know, just like a very like do your own thing kind of way. I don't know. It was lovely to meet them, and for the short time. And this is one of my points about death is you know Braylon got into a car accident on their way home from a bar. I don't know like the details. I I settle with um I settle with knowing what knowledge comes to me most of the time with things like this, and um but I don't believe they were driving, but they did get into a car accident and passed away. um and I just remember thinking about like all of the little moments where Braylon was if it didn't sound like Braylon was black, by the way. So we just had like a lot of like random things in common where like I could just like say like lean over and say something to him, and they would like laugh or agree, and it'd be like because we worked in like a suburban place, so there's a lot of caucasity going on. So it was kind of this like thing of like somebody knows like these little things that are like super niche references growing up as a black kid. So I would think about these moments that we would have like that, and these like laughs, and this time this table um was complimenting them but not using their preferred pronouns, and they didn't really care. They were just like glad they got a compliment because it was like an old dude, one of them like Vietnam vet hats on, and the Jesus saves on there and stuff. And so yeah, he didn't really care, but he was very complimentary of the service he was getting. Um, he just didn't he just wasn't about the pronouns. And the wife was like, I don't remember what the wife wasn't saying he, but the wife wasn't, I don't know if the wife was saying they or she. I don't. The wife was just like she was very delightful. They were both delightful. It was just funny that like this is why I have like qualms with black and white morality, because you have this moment where someone is you know disrespecting someone by you know like to their face, just like continually like not using their preferred pronouns, but in a complimentary way of like this person is doing a great job. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. I am doing well. And yeah, everyone, we are vibing out. Appreciate y'all being here. But yeah, so that he was kind of continually um using, the wrong pronouns, but complimenting, high praises of the service, because Braylon was a great server. Um, yeah, so that was a big kind of moment of like, okay, I've only known this person for a short time, but one, it had just happened with another employee, so it's almost like regardless if I know them, I'm still feeling it, because like there's only so much of this, around me, um, that I can't intake, even if I don't know these people like intrinsically, like again, like, so one thing, okay, I didn't mention, there was two managers. It was me and the GM. There should have been minimum three. There should have really been four. um I'm high quality. I am high quality. There should have been at least three, possibly four, but there was only two of us at the time. So, or was it three? Honestly, can't. I think there was three of us. One of the first one, and then maybe two of us the second one. I'm not sure, but at one point there were just two of us running the store, like opening, closing, and all that stuff. So, um, but at one point in time, like, the GM, she went to both of the funerals to, like, show support and stuff, and be with, the other employees, and I stayed back. So like I'm like immersed in this, and like I had to tell some of the other employees too, like, hey, you know, um, such and such passed. And he's like, "You lying?" I'm not. I'm like, I wish, but it was just like, because she, everyone was. I think everyone was, wondering, where she was at, and then realized, she wasn't coming in, and why. And then you're just like, wow, that, you just never expect people that you don't expect to be going to go. And I think that is another reason why we have like such a hard time accepting it, right? Something I always bring up. Actually, I'll get to animals later. Sorry, I'm crisscross applesauce myself right now. Um, but yeah, so after Braylon died, um, my mom was having some problems. She was in and out of the hospital, having problems breathing, and something that I don't think I've shared, um, but she messaged me. I think the like a week before she passed, and told me how she thought she would die, and it was exactly what happened. Um, so even expecting it, you can't, like, you still don't expect it. After my mom, well, before my well, sorry, before my mom passed, this is all in the same week. On Monday, my granny, my mom's mom, had a stroke. Um, she couldn't walk, she couldn't talk, she, had trouble eating solid food, couldn't really chew. She already wore dentures, so, but then that was kind of like out of the question, which made solid food, you know, almost out of the question. Although one time she did try to eat some Taco Bell. She tried to eat. My uncle offered up a some crunch. Like, it ended with crunch, so you knew it was gonna crunch. And I didn't want it, and she like raised her hand, like, because she couldn't talk. She was like, I'm like, "You have no teeth." Anyway, and I once watched her. Okay, I once watched her gnaw on a Dorito for like 5-10 minutes. I promise. I promise. She was probably high. We were probably all high. Um, but it's here nor there. It kind of is because okay, it is because she had a gordita crunch. Yeah, man, gordito crunch for sure. Man, I gotta stay away from Taco Bell because I'm lactose intolerant. Everything they do got cheese in it. And I love all of it. I love all of it. But it ain't good. Um, so Monday, my granny had a stroke, and that was pretty rough on her. Um, my mom died on Thursday, so I was already like planning to go up and see them. I like just talked to my sister about like, hey, I got some time off. I'm gonna take like like a week or two off and come up there. Um, very soon, like within a few weeks. Um, and yeah, just didn't make it. Uh, but when I got up to Minnesota, my granny was still kicking. So I did get to spend some time with her before she passed. She passed, I think, a few months later. I'm not one to like etch these like dates in my mind. I try to just keep it to like who they are and like what they meant to me. Um, some are hard to forget, but yeah, yeah, yeah. I make I make a decent breakfast burrito. Um, but yeah, so I got to spend some time with her, which was very it was very good for me. I actually so here's a fun story. When I was 16, um, I think I don't know if I was 16. I can't remember how old I was. I was whatever age I smoked. Well, I smoke now, but I smoked then as well as a teenager for quite some time, and then I stopped up until a couple years ago. But I took a joint out of my granny's drawer, like I took one of her joints, and she had asked like. I think she had even asked, like, he might take my joint. I'm like, no, I ain't see nothing. So I always told myself like I would have to repay her one day for that. Um, but there was a long time that I didn't smoke as an adult. So yeah, I got to repay my granny. I got to hang out and smoke with my granny before she passed. So that was an upside. And I had already had the mindset of like soaking in these moments, right? Because of just kind of how I was looking at those prior um um these prior deaths. So I'm going to take a sip of water. Hold on. And that's a big jug. I don't want to go glug 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 all up in y'all's ears. This ain't that kind of show. You know what I'm saying? Well, my mom, yes, track of time, journaling, yes. If anything, from 2013 to 2020, grief has been disorienting for me, Chris. I am with you, sister. Whew. I'm the opposite though. So I think I had like lost. I did lose track because I think I did stop journaling for a bit. It was just like it was a bit rocky. Because I journaled a lot before that. Like I would challenge I would do these little challenges with myself. Like, all right, I'm gonna journal for 30 days straight, and just I would just mark on a little calendar like tally or whatever. And I got to like I think almost like 2 months straight. Like every day I would write, and some days the only thing I would write would be um like I haven't wrote anything yet. like I fell asleep. I'm tired. I would write down like it's this time and I'm just not going to bed. Like what am I like? Oh God, it's 2 a.m. I'm just not going to bed. I got to open the store tomorrow. Like, uh, so yeah, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. Not wonderful that your mom passed. Obviously, that is horrible. And it sounds like it happened a lot early. You said so 2013. Um, that my mom passed in 2023, so that's 10 years before. So I know my mom was 50, I think 3, I believe, something like that, or would have been 53. But Yeah, that sounds a lot younger, possibly, or you might have been, I would say, a lot younger because I'm in my 30s, so I can't imagine. Like, and here's the thing, and here's the thing on perspective, right? While I was up in Minnesota, for my mom's funeral, me and my siblings went out to eat, and the waiter we got had lost his mom when he was 13, and he was like, I think 23. He was a younger guy, but like his mom had been gone for a while because he was so young, and I was like, I just thought about like I don't even know who I would be like if that would like that just like it would just change who you are so much, losing someone at a younger age. So yeah, I feel for you there, Chris. Um, all right, so here's one. I kind of already said this on and this is kind of where the inspiration for this video came from. Is from the Sunday sessions over at Bridge City, which I think everybody here knows about. For anybody who watches the live playback, the Bridge City Sunday session is talking about sitting in emotional. Um, why am I like blanking on that? Uh, like sitting with things that are emotionally uncomfortable, right? So, um, experiences and conversations, that are necessary, but weird or different, or just uncomfortable or scary, right? Like these, if something has to happen, it has to happen, right? Like there's no way to go backwards. Like you can only go forward. So like once once someone is gone, like yes, there's gonna be regrets. Yes, there's gonna be like, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do this? But like if there's nothing you can do about those things, right? Then focusing on what you did get to do and what you did get to experience, I think would take up enough of the like mental energy that your mind needs. Because the thing is, like your brain, you need to kind of work your way, dribble your way through that. And I think once that energy is like expunged, like to that thing, then it's much easier to relax and process the difficult parts. So, for me, it's like I focus much more on, okay, what were the experiences I had, with this individual. Um, and so, yeah, so after my mom, then my granny passed. And, that was kind of, expected. Like you kind of saw that one coming. After the stroke, it was just rough. It was just rough. And then losing my mom was rough on her. So, you know, uh, she, I don't think she suffered much for very long. Like she wasn't like, you know, yeah. Um, but anyway, sorry, I was talking about Bridge City, which is where we talked about the Sunday sessions. And so what I got inspired by was our coffee session, which is afterwards we kind of get together and talk about the session itself, how it went. Um, I'm just trying not to lose my train of thought half the time because my brain sometimes wants to like jump on other stuff, and I'm like, I gotta like rein it in. Um, but we talk about the session and what our thoughts were about it and how it resonated with us and what the different things were that we liked. But then someone, I think actually it was no, I don't think it was Dark. I think it was Lorenzo. I can't remember. Someone suggested we like share something about ourselves that would help the group get to know us. Um, Option to be vulnerable, option to be, witty, secretive, mystery. Like you could say whatever. You could say I'm in a chess club. You could say I have 10 kids. But almost everyone decided to share something vulnerable. And that was a really good example of community building. But the thing that I shared was about mango. And before I hold on, yeah, speaking like this takes up a lot because I can't breathe through my nose most of the time. It's got like sinuses and issue. I don't know what's going on up there. Something's going on up there. So I am a mouth breather, which means when I'm talking a lot, my lips tend to get dry. It's stupid. All right. So, and the thing that I shared, everyone here knows. I'm just gonna try to get through it, but I talk about my dog a lot and how much she just means a lot to me because she's a cool dog. First of all, which she's finally laying down. She was chewing on a bone, so I'm sorry if y'all heard that, but she's done. She's laying down. But I got her, I think, the day before I had a relative um, in their own life, and she's been a great, like drive of energy, right? Like a thing of keeping me patient. Um, things like trusting the process. Like I hate I sometimes hate when people say that, but that's like what like. In a way, you're not really trusting the process. You just relinquish, like there is no choice but the process, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I trust it or not because it is the only way. So you have to go through it. And if you don't trust it, then it's just going to be uncomfortable. But that's why we practice sitting in uncomfortableness so that we can just get through um, that process, whatever that is for us. Um, so yeah, I got her then, and so it's just like it's a thing that I can I can't forget one or the other. So much so that that relatives. Um, I'm just trying not to get like super specific because this is super public, but the relative from that relative even mentioned like, oh, like this is the day you got mango, and I was like, yep, and like that, that's all he had to say. We know what that means. So the reason I bring that up, sorry, is I actually have a point. And now I shared that with Bridge City, but um, anyway, come by, check us out on Sunday sessions on Durante Lamar. I think there's also a Bridge City YouTube page as well. But Sunday sessions are great because we do get to, you know, talk about some of these like more serious things. So the things that make all humans human, because we are a human first, forward thinking, people centric society. So, and life affirming. I'm trying to make sure I remember all my. Um, because I just love I love a straightforward like this is what we stand for, that you don't need like 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 you don't need a pamphlet. There's a couple bullet points. You know what I'm saying? Like start handing out pamphlets, you're worrying people. Um Now we might send out some digital pamphlets because we just do that much cool stuff because we got all the clubs, like the deconstruction club, which I'm going to bring up some deconstruction stuff here soon. So just a heads up for that here in about 5 minutes. But so getting Mango around that time forces me to connect those two events, right? And I have to appreciate even when she's being more difficult, um, which she kind of was in the beginning. Like she was she was housebroken. She didn't like she didn't chew on stuff. Like she was good in that way, but she just had a lot of energy. She like jumping on people. She'd run out the door a couple times. She ran off at the park before. So like really like challenging me, like in terms of just patience and like figuring out like how to train a dog, like for real, for real. Sorry, that one came out of nowhere, and I did not want y'all to hear that cough. So, but how to like really like train a dog, and I've learned even a lot through that, right? And a lot of things that I've even learned about dogs have really changed even the way that I look at like human development, because in the way that like our societies and such like that came about, a big part of that is dogs giving us the ability to, control areas and, raise crops and make villages and cities and systems and laws and religions and groups and politics and all that stuff. So yeah, it was dogs' fault. I'm just kidding. Dogs are great and we should treat them better. So yeah, so any moment I have with her becomes kind of like this moment of like really practicing, understanding like this is no, okay. The thing, I don't think I actually said this part. So Bridge City, my folks at Bridge City, you are getting some new information with this. I don't think I shared the part where I actually found her 6 months before I got her, kept her for the weekend, looking, around for the owner, found the owner, gave her back on like Sunday. I found her on like Thursday night, gave her back Sunday morning ish, Sunday afternoon, something like that. And Sunday afternoon when I got off work at like one or something. So I gave her back, and but over the weekend, like we were locked, like we bonded. Like I took her on walks like around the neighborhood to try to figure out like if she would like venture to a house. We walked right past the house, and she just kept walking. I think she just wanted to she just wanted to keep walking. Like she's an adventurous pup. Um, but I had her for the weekend, gave her back, and I was like, man, like I really liked her, but I didn't want to, I don't want to keep anyone's dog, and I felt like that would be, you know, wrong of me to do. Um, so yeah, when I gave her back, I was kind of like, dang, that kind of sucks, but you know, that's the lady's dog. Um, I saw her out one more time, I think. I texted the lady about it, and Dog Life, oh yeah, Dog Life's got a bunch of dogs. I think he said you got like what, 10, 11, 12 dogs, something like that. I've just got the one, and she is enough. But yeah, so she got out again. I told the lady. A couple days later, she told me that she was gonna take her to a shelter. I said, I'll be happy to take her. And that was, and actually I got her on Mother's Day la- last year. Yeah, because we just passed. Yeah, so yeah, we've been rocking. So I keep that in mind. Um, I'm actually gonna skip that, and so I'm gonna circle back to animal predation and my obsession with like watching live feedings and such, and watching how different animals hunt and tactics that they use. It's very interesting to me. I mean, I understand why, because it informs a lot about death, right? Like watching animals that have to eat meat to live, you know, they have to kill it, and however long that takes, it doesn't matter to them as long as they're not fighting back in a way that endangers their own life, depending on if they got horns, antlers, or any claws or something like that, or fangs themselves. But as long as they're not endangering the predator, like the predator doesn't care. um I'm not going to describe some of the gruesome scenes that I've watched. I don't know everyone's taste in that, but there are plenty of YouTube videos available of different animals. Just um, yeah, yeah, no, exactly. Like I'm okay. So just okay, all right. I'm gonna give you a little heads up, and then I'm gonna say something like grotesque. And if you need to, um, If you need to mute, do so. Okay. So 5 seconds. I'm gonna say something grotesque in about 5 seconds. Okay. I watched an alligator tear off the face of a zebra, and the bone, like as it was a lot, like still kicking in the water, trying to cross. And like the alligator just, he's just trying to get some. He just thrashing. I'm just trying to get a piece. I'm just trying to get a nugget, man. Alligator just trying to get a nugget, man. Whether that comes off your face or not is really just a matter of chance to him. Like, and like it's just you why and like you see it and you're like, anyway, I'm gonna go past the grotesqueness of it. It just really makes me think about like, can a zebra conceptually imagine what it is to be eaten by an alligator? I don't think they can. The argument could be some animals could, like maybe an elephant, maybe I feel like dogs, because the way dogs act when they don't like fireworks, like she don't like fireworks, and the way she acts is like she acts like there are bombs going off in Hiroshima. Um, no, I do not want a puppy. 18, yeah. See, I told you he had a lot of dogs. I was way off, but a lot of dogs, a lot of dogs. Um, but yeah, it's just the zebra can't. I don't think the zebra can like really like predict like what it would or imagine like what it would be to get caught by an alligator, right? But we imagine like, oh, you don't want to get hit by a car, right? As you look both ways, like you can imagine like that would suck. You wouldn't be able to walk. Like you can think of all these different consequences that could happen to you. The zebra's just thinking like, don't die. Don't get don't get eaten. But I don't think it's like thinking about like, okay, the alligator, or like when a lioness is like hunting, right? The gazelle isn't going. Like I get the lioness has cubs, but like it had to be me. Like I'm the one that got caught. Like I don't think that's what the gazelle is thinking. I think it's just thinking like, holy shit, this hurts. This is incredibly painful. I don't think I'm gonna make it out alive. Like maybe there's not like a thought of like but it's definitely like something of panic, but not necessarily um a I like a selfness of it, right? But they definitely feel, right? We know like they feel pain. So if they feel pain, then it has to be experiencing something in the moment. Does it think about it beforehand? And I think that's like the biggest difference in humans, is the way that we conceive death. If we can think about it beforehand, but then we choose not to, because most of the time we're not thinking about, you know, spending time with people because, they may not be in good health, or not knowing what health they're in, or, not knowing that they could be in a car crash out of nowhere, right? Like, we don't want to think of that because that's kind of like down. But then, like, if we did, we would most certainly live as though those things could happen, right? But like that takes a lot of energy. Like, and I'm not saying like that's how I am with everything. Like that's me some of the time. That's not me all the time. Right? That's me when I'm at my best. I'm gonna tell y'all the the high phrases, okay? Um but it's very difficult, to be constantly like aware of those like deep feelings in every single moment, right? Especially when it comes to like, interpersonal relationships, because you know it 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 can take a lot to do even mundane things, right? I have a crazy alligator story for you sometime. All right. I'll have to I'll take you up on that one day. I love I love me some alligator stories, man. I am fascinated with like different reptiles. I don't like touching them or being around them, but like behind the screen, maybe behind some glass if it's straight, but not too much, not too much. So like every creature fears death, right? For nature, it is usually brutally painful, but for humans, I don't think as much, right? Like there are painful ways to die, and there are a lot of ways that are uncomfortable, but like we have the ability to at higher rates like die of old age versus we're not getting preyed upon by other animals, right? And so long as we're not doing things to harm ourselves or be reckless, like car crashes and um, different diseases that spread from not not vaccinating and all the different stuff. We're not gonna go into that because I'm neither here nor there, but it is our kind of ability to like have all that involved that we don't have like the worst like deaths I believe of the animal kingdom, right? Like for a lion, like a best case scenario for a lion being a pride, you're getting well fed and you know you die quick. I mean, like because if you're a male lion and you're alone, like you're probably gonna get killed by another male lion who wants your territory. If you have a territory and you have a pride, then they want your pride. So at some point, when you get too old, the young bucks are gunning for you, and the only way to like gun you down is to gun you down, and they don't care, right? Like no matter how old like an old animal is, like if it's your time to get usurped, they will come for you, right? Apes do the same thing. Um, they give a little bit more like, hey, like you can have it and still be in the group because they're a little bit different because there's multiple males in the group versus a pride of lions. Um, when the males grow up, they gotta go. So yeah, so what we lack in the physical pain, I think we make up for, or at least like kind of like have thrown on the table emotional pain in that death, right? So that's kind of like the animal part in us doesn't have the physical part, so the human part in us puts in the emotional because we can look at a picture and compare. Okay, this picture has a picture of me and this person. Me and this person will never like stand next to each other again, right? Like an animal can think, can experience like a death and they show signs of grief, but a human can tell a story of a thing that happened and a thing that won't happen because of like like if they're not here it can't happen, like they can't go to the movies with us, right? So there's a higher concept that we need something to replace, and I think we've had this since like the beginning, I believe, of human existence, right? Like it's only recently that we've had writing, but we've had language likely since the very beginning. So we've been talking and telling stories and having to deal with this for a long time. And one of the things that I think comes out of that is spirituality. And that's why I think a lot of people will default to, even if they're not like specifically aligned with any religion, like they'll always kind of associate like, oh, they're in a better place, like no matter what the person did or didn't do, like they're in a better place. um but I think that's because I'm going to go kind of straight off my notes here. Spirituality is older than written religion, right? So older than written religion, we've been like kind of a spiritual being. It extends to prehistory, and though we don't know what they would have practiced or believed, we can kind of guess based off, what we've expected or like known at the time. So we know what they knew about, right? They knew about the stars, they knew about nature. So these are probably the things that they're basing their spirituality off of. Spirituality acts as a buffer between us and dealing with the overwhelming toll that the cost of consciousness takes on our psyche. So that weight of awareness and intellect that humans have that other animals don't possess is kind of the very thing that makes us different, but it's also the very thing that kind of gives us a little more baggage and a little more just it's what gives us kind of the I think the issues, right? It's like everything great about us and everything bad about us kind of comes to that like higher intellect, because without that, like, we're just kind of like squishy, meat bags, right? With no hair that wouldn't be able to survive the cold. The combination of our awareness and agency and reasoning with the ability to perceive cause and effect without sufficient knowledge of natural forces tempts us to make assumptions about things we don't understand. So we see things happening in our environment. We assess what we see, not knowing we don't understand it yet. And we make assumptions based off of what we see, not based off of what we understand. And I think if we've done this, I think this is something that we've done since the beginning. But as we have the ability to, write things down, test things, repeat things, right? We overcome that. But before that, like, how do you know that what you're seeing and describing is what's happening, right? Like, you're seeing the trees. Okay, before you understand how wind currents work and that like air is like a thing, right? That like just because we don't see it or really like feel it unless it's the wind, but then like the wind is this other thing, right? Like if the wind is like a spirit, right? If you're a human living, 200,000 years ago and the wind is a spirit, then when the trees dance, the trees are actually dancing because they don't understand that the trees move. Like I just think they don't understand the trees move because of the wind. But like if they're treating the wind as like this separate thing, and then the trees are this other separate thing, like we don't know like what they would have put together in terms of like two and two. So making observations off of, things that we don't fully understand kind of causes us to make things that lean towards keeping us comfortable in whatever like state of mind that we are in. Um yeah, I'm gonna skip that too. This is stuff that's like, all right, I don't have to do. So yeah, so what I and I'm not to say like this is like 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 any sort of you know um necessarily advice on like kind of coping. This is more like what I've done, and I think this could work for other people, because for me, like, I don't necessarily believe in like any afterlife. So when someone's gone, they're gone. And thinking about losing people kind of in the process of coming to that conclusion and then kind of getting there before the culmination of everything. Like I was pretty much there before my mom passed, but being in that like kind of you know train of thought, like you have to look at it differently, because if there is nowhere to go and there isn't like this divine reward waiting, then like what matters, what mattered, and having to consider that, you know especially like depending on like who it is that you lost, or how they're in relation, because the thing is like you know like losing someone, like you go through it with people, right? And it's so interesting how like you could like it could be your grandma, but it's someone else's auntie, right? And like they lost an aunt, you lost, so it's like multiple people were lost at the same time, because they were an auntie to someone, they were a grandma to someone else. But I think walking through that like with people and facing like what that person was, I think really uh, helps because instead of focusing on like a lot of people get very even I think especially I think and this is the thing that like by the time that my granny passed I was definitely for sure like I was like okay like I don't believe in any of this. um it was really interesting because like I realized like oh like saying that someone is with God like definitely like can make you feel better. It can kind of like almost like move things along, not like along like to like forget, but like along like hey like we gotta be able to move forward, and it's hard to move forward. So what can I say to get us to move forward? Like oh like they're with the Lord, they're at a better place, they're and they're pearly gates, but it's just like they're still not here. That doesn't like help when I'm um that doesn't help when I'm when I'm up at night when I'm regretting oh I never told my mom about this thing that I wanted to tell her about, and I'll never get to tell her now. Like that doesn't help with that, right? Like because what does that do for what is that I mean like it's it'd be like yeah that's good for her, but like she doesn't care anymore because she's done, she's good, so like I'm the one that's got to deal with the feelings. My experience, I was raised very Christian. I had like family that worked in different ministries, so I spent a lot of time in weekday and weekend services. Um, I've done a little bit of preaching at like youth churches and stuff, youth prisons, um, mostly like mostly like Pentecostal, like non-denominational. Um, Involved in like Bible study, life groups, stuff like that. So yeah. So facing life. So living in the moment, being present, remembering that everyone is temporary in your life or you and theirs. Learning to take the time given to get to know people like Braylon, whom I had so much in common with. So focusing on the life that you're currently living with the people that you're with gives you moments that make you feel good about what you're doing, right? So imagine like you have someone that's like, hey, like I want to do X, Y with you, and you're like, okay, all right, I'll do it. Like you'll do it, but you're like, but like I'll do it. So then you do it, and as you're doing it, you're like, I'm really glad I took the time to do this. And you can like take a moment to understand that okay, I didn't like I was reluctant to do a thing, but this is a good thing. I'm doing the thing. I'm also aware I'm doing the thing, and knowing what that means in a like I'm never like it's not like all the time, and it's not with every single interaction. I'm not always thinking like this person could be gone, but like it's hard not to come at certain um interactions or just not have that spark of like just take the time, you know. Um and I think in doing that, I think that is a way of honoring those other people, right? Like if there's nothing you can do for them now, then doing the best you can to be there for the people you have with you today, I think would be a just like the best way to like honor them, right? Um, because moving forward, you won't have as much of that feeling, and not to say oh you'll never have it, um, because again like the thing with with my cousin that happened about a year after, no, about 2 years after. So it was my two employees, my mom, my granny. That was 2023, and then I think in 2024 is when my relative. It was like a year or so later. I can't. remember the years right now. But so I say that to say that, like, having some time in between gave me like the ability to practice that in real time, like over and over again, just practicing, um, you know, just really being present with people because you don't know if they're going to be around. Strength of what remains. Yes, I love that because what you know like the thumbnail, like what do I what should I do, like what do I do now, like that, because that is what it feels like. That's what it feels like because most of I don't know if, well, actually I don't know if most of the time it's like if someone dies it's expected, but like even if it's 50-50, they expect it versus they're not, it's like I said, like it still sucks. It's still like a point of like, you know what should I do now, and the people around you especially also that went through that, like they all have something different to add kind of to the pot. So I think, I think that is one of the reasons why we have, like, I'll call it last rights. Like, because I'm speaking like the way that I think about human behavior, um, and this will be kind of wrapping up here. The way that I think about human behavior, I try not to only think about the way that we do things now in the 21st century or even the last, few thousand years, right? Like I try to think about, okay, if humans have been on this earth, you know, um, for, Homo sapiens have been here 300,000 plus years, right? And again, we've been talking most of the time, telling stories, um, probably talking the whole time, telling stories about the stars, about the trees and the animals. What, like, we've been here that whole time. So, like, when I think about like what humans like do and how humans are, I try to keep that in mind, right? Um, so yeah, I think strengthening like what remains is like focusing on like that social network, that social bond. Um, like as a social species, like we're not even the only animal that does it. Like you'll see elephants do it, you'll see whales do it, like they'll gather around each other, when one of them dies, and like sometimes they'll like spend time with the body. I think chimps will spend time with the body, like hold its hand and stuff like that. So it's like there is something to like social animals that like these bonds after losing someone, like it's almost like a muscle, right? You tear muscle, and when you are well, uh you're eating right, you have the calories and the protein to repair, that muscle repairs stronger back. So it's like there's a tear in the community, but then it grows stronger, and as the community grows and as it populates in another generation, that's how like you build bigger and stronger communities, kind of I think like in those early stages before we had all the systems that we have now. So yeah, thank you for that. So I think that's all the whew. Oh no, so turn from so all right. I kind of mentioned this, but like the question of why. I think the question of why is a slippery slope. Um, once you kind of drag down that hill of trying to figure out like why something happened, um, it becomes almost impossible because you could ask why for the reason for the why for the reason for the why for the reason for the why, and sometimes like this is something that is more, again, more natural in nature. Sometimes you know a thing just happens, and that is not like a like I don't care about the people. If you've lost someone, I'm not trying to be callous about saying that, but like that is the one, it's the one thing that every living thing, we have in common is like, we will die unless you're an immortal jellyfish. You know, it sucks to suck if you're not an immortal jellyfish. It must be cool to be them, but none of us can live forever. So it's like you have to know. It's just you never expect, and so I think, and this goes back to Durante. I think it was the early headcanon. You know, like the ode, like what do you like? What does the universe owe me? You know, and that's something that like is tough to really like sit with, but it's so serious. It's like the universe, no one, if you believe God, like he also doesn't, like, no one owes you. So if no one owes you, why ask for answers? If they don't owe you to keep the thing you love, the person you love preserved, if they don't owe you enough to keep the person you love preserved, why do they owe you enough an answer? So it's like the the only sufficient answer could just be to give them back. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the only, like, nah. But I just think, like, if there's no good reason, if there's no sufficient reason why, if there's not a conceivable sufficient reason why, it's like the emotional, because, and the reason I say this is because there's only so much emotional energy you can put towards anything, right? There's only so much mental energy you can put towards anything. It's not that asking why is bad. It's that the emotional energy of cherishing, of being with the people around you, I think is a better return on investment. I feel kind of gross saying that, actually. I don't know how I feel about that. I have different views on economics and things like that, but I'm also not like well versed in it, so we're not gonna dive into that anytime soon. Um, yeah. All right, that with the question thing, sipping them tongues in there and the little thing. I got tongues that I figure Christians don't. Ooh, a demon because sound different. God forbid you growl a bit. That's, yeah, yeah, for sure. Growling is crazy. Anyway, um, that is all that I had. If there are any like points or questions or anything anyone wants to say, I'll give it, I'll give it 30 seconds to a minute. I wanted to stay around lower than an hour. We're at, an hour and five. So, um, well, I just say, like, I feel differently about, I feel differently about capitalism. And when I say differently, I mean that I didn't really have a stance on whether or not it was conducive to a peaceful society. I'll say that because it definitely works. Okay, right? The proof's in the pudding. It works, but it only works for some. So, is it conducive to a peaceful society? Probably not. Now, what would be? I don't know enough about it to to say what would be. So that's why I said, like, it's topic for that. I'm very much willing to say what I do not know about, because there's just no there's no, I don't care. Yeah, it's not. I didn't pay attention in economics. Yeah, that's on me. I'll try to catch up. I'm not ashamed of it. It is what it is. Um, I do think, again, this is something I think about, right? Like, we haven't had metallurgy for um, a long time, right? Like, how long have we been able to manipulate metal? Um, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I will say it is less than, it had to be after agriculture, which is what, 12,000 years, something like that, right? We wouldn't have been able to manipulate metal before we settled down. Um, Not in any meaningful way, at least. So metallurgy, that's where you get money. So before that, like, what did they, what did, because the humans were coming into contact with each other well before we had writing, right? So there was trading and stuff like that going on for a long time. So what did those people do? Um, we will probably never know, but like, if we did know, could that revolutionize? No, maybe not revolutionize, but could it give us maybe some good ideas on how to trade peacefully on an equal playing field, right? Like I don't know, maybe, probably. I have an eldest son. Economics are yeah, it's very complex. You know, I remember the teacher saying the word dividends in our economics class. This girl was tearing up one of her toys, but I don't remember what he was talking about. I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, uh, I don't remember hardly anything from the class. We had it, but that was on me. I wasn't paying attention. We don't have actual capitalism. When capitalism was failing, businesses fail. No such thing as too big to fail. And true. Well, yeah, we have a lot of things that aren't what they are or are supposed to be, but we call them what we call them because we call them that. Words only mean something so long as everyone agrees on the meaning, and if everyone doesn't agree, then people just kind of get loosey goosey with what it means to do or be something. Because if the definition of the word gets loosey goosey, then what the word is and like means to the people will also kind of like wane, right? Like if one or the other happens, then it's like if the thing you're doing starts to become a little different, it'll probably be called something different. And if the thing you're doing starts to be, called something different or saw or defined differently, that'll probably change what you do. Um, you know, People like to stand for things, be, um, a part of the group. Um, yeah, we're social. We like to be a part of the group. Ancient Irish Druids were expert goldsmiths. This was 6 to 3,000 years ago. Okay, right. So 6 to 3,000 years ago, uh, again, that's like a drop in the bucket compared to 300,000 years. That's great. That is exactly. Yeah, it's like if we've only had the ability to make it's like, hey, how much gold do you have? That's easy. Hey, I got a sack of gold. That's enough for me. Cool. But like before that, humans were popping. Like, we left Africa and we was out. They went everywhere. Um, so yeah, and even contact between different sister like human groups. Humans and Neanderthals, humans and I think Denisovans have also like met and intermixed. So it's like, and when I say humans, I mean Homo sapiens and Homo Neander, Homo Neanderthal and Homo Denis, Homo. Ah, we ain't even gonna go through that right now. But y'all get it. Y'all get it. Uh, all this time, right? And we've only done it the way we do it for this, like for so little. So to be so confident that it's the best way, ah, I just don't think we can be confident that anything we do is really the best way when we know that we do so many things that are against our nature. Like we know we do things that are against like the way that we anatomically are built, right? Like we know we do things that aren't great for the health of the human. So in knowing that, how can we be certain that the way that we understand life and relationships and economics and group politics, and even like spirituality, how can we be so certain that we fully understand when we have entire swaths of lost knowledge because there's just stuff we'll just never know about those people. And they like, again, I keep going back to because they existed for so, like humans existed for so long before the way we exist now, you know, like way longer. So it's just those were the people that survived, the cold, the winters, the ice age. So like whatever they were doing, understanding like the life expectancy back then wasn't what it is now and stuff like that. So we've definitely come a long way, but I'm not saying that like we should, do like caveman diets or nothing like that. But yeah, I just think that there's knowledge there that we should strive to try to kind of reclaim. Words are malleable. Yeah. Spelled. And repurpose words. Yes. Yes, exactly. Love it. In doing so, you must be clear about your unique use. Yeah. Yeah. Um, cool. Well, thank everybody for showing up here. It was mostly, actually, it was like all Bridge City folks, I believe. Um, we will be Sunday sessions tomorrow, talking about sitting in it some more. I gotta look over the notes again. Yeah, I'm gonna. It's an early night for me, so I'm gonna be up for a while. I'm gonna look at some notes, and I will see some of y'all tomorrow. For anybody who watches this back, thank you so much for tuning in, watching this far. It's been great having you here. I think there might be a small part two to this. Thank you so much, Darkly. I've been off and on practicing for years. Not gonna lie, like I've always done stuff like this, but just not consistently, and not ever usually by myself. That's one thing I was always like trying to get like a partner or something, but I've never done this by myself, and I think that it was great for me. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing as well. Um, what was I saying? People watching back. See, I'll be losing my train of thought. I'll be losing my train of thought. Um, but thank you all, for watching. For the people that do watch back, thank y'all for getting this far. Um, yeah, this is I was gonna say this is probably gonna be like a part two ish to this because I do want to share some things with you guys, but I do want to kind of work on that some a little more before I bring it up. But I do want to share some things that I used to process that I kind of created as a use to process some of the grief. So I thought about doing it, sharing it tonight, but I think this was a better flow. I think I'll save that for next time. Maybe do like a shorter session. That'll be uh, just another time. So, yeah, everyone have a good night. And I don't have any like slogans or anything yet. So, howl at the moon. I don't know. We'll try it. Peace. It's cheaper than a therapist. Yes.